Hi everyone! Welcome back to the studio for this week's episode of Tutorial Tuesday. I'm so excited you're here with me in the studio for this week's episode. We're going to do a really nice sunset scene in the desert. I'm really excited for this. I just have been really feeling kind of some of those desert moods, and I thought we would put it up onto the canvas. Be sure to check the description below for the entire paint list. It'll all be down there for you. I'm using all of my Bob Ross paints, and then I already have my thin even coat of liquid white up on the canvas, and it's ready to go. Let's jump right into it. I'm going to start with my 1-inch brush, and we're going to start to build a little bit of a sunset scene on the canvas. So we're going to use some of our yellows first and try and decide where our light source is going to be. And I want this sun to be setting really low on the horizon here so we can have a really big sky. That's something that's pretty common in the desert, is seeing these really bold sunsets where the colors just go through what feels like the entire sky and you can just look at the whole thing. I really enjoy it. So we're going to paint that today. I started with some yellow ochre. Now we're doing some Indian yellow right around the yellow ochre. We just kind of want to surround it with this golden color. Just a touch more. Just soften that together. I'm going to pick up a little bit of bright red. We'll just tap into that and grab some Indian yellow as well. Kind of create a little bit of a peach color. That's pretty. We're just going to build a border around our gold here so that we can use some very rich blues in the sky as well. Some more red. Nice. Just going to get a little bit of this dark all the way around. Heavy traffic this morning. a typical morning on this neighborhood area for me. Hopefully we'll be able to silence them. Big ol' mean trucks. I'm using some alizarin crimson now, and I just like to tap my brush into the paint so that it gets the paint all evenly distributed. That way we don't have any real crisp lines on there. A little bit more. Just using the same alizarin crimson. And I'm going to start to create a little bit of texture, just a couple clouds in the sky. Let's use a little bit of crimson and we'll just get our bottom area of this canvas kind of covered with that. When we're painting sunset scenes, the most important thing to keep in mind is that we have to create all of the dark around our sun so that the sun feels more bright. So we start with our light color and move to our darker colors as we get further and further away from our light source. Bring some of this in. And it'll darken out our edges, making this area in the center feel a lot more bright. Let's pick up a blending brush and we'll just soften this all out. Start in the lightest area, use long, even strokes. All right, now we're gonna pick up the same dirty brush that we were using earlier, and we're gonna start going into some blues. I like to just wipe off a little bit of the excess paint, but I'm not gonna clean it. We just wipe some of the paint off, and we're gonna go right into our darks. Let's start with our mix. This is actually the same ocean mix that I use, but we're using it for our dark sky today. So we like to use this for water, but it works really well for a dark night sky. That's our even mixture of phthalo blue, Prussian blue, and midnight black. We're getting a good bit of paint on the brush so we can build this dark sky. Since we put our liquid white on the canvas, it's always going to be blending with that liquid white. So the more that we use this brush, the more paint's going to come off and the lighter it's going to get. So we'll start at the top and get all of our pigment out. And let's pick up some more. Same color. Distribute it into your bristles. And we'll start again at the top. Scrubbing that paint into the canvas. I'm keeping this X stroke very tight, and I'm pressing quite hard on the canvas. You should be able to hear it, it's pretty loud. And this pressure will get all the paint from the bristles onto the canvas and make it nice and dark. Nice and light here. We'll just soften these two together a little. All right, let's continue with this dark sky. We're just using that same ocean mix. And I didn't actually mix those colors up on the palette. I just set them all kind of next to each other and I'm just mixing them on the brush. I really like that effect because you kind of you just don't really know what you're gonna get. And I like that, it's fun. We're just darkening up. I wanted it to be really, really rich, really dark, and really give you that kind of like silhouette look of the desert landscape. So we're going to use some really bold, contrasting colors today. And we're just going to work this down. We want to even out the paint so we can use our long strokes to kind of distribute it and make sure that you don't have real big piles of it anywhere. And we're going to come in with our bigger blending brush and blend this a little bit more. Let's do a touch more dark. I'm going to pick up some midnight black. Really dark. The darker we make the corners, the lighter our sun is going to look. All right, let's let that sit for a minute. We still have a little bit of paint on the brush. Just get that distributed into this lower section here. We don't want to waste paint. I'm gonna use maybe my fan brush. Nope. Sable brush. A nice big sable brush. I'm gonna build a little bit of light in the sky by picking up just a tiny bit of titanium white and Indian yellow. And we're gonna go right down to our horizon. And just build a little bit more light back here. Just a little bit of titanium white, and Indian yellow. Just soften that edge till it kind of disappears a little bit. Now, let's build some more clouds. I'm feeling a little indecisive today. I really want to have some pink clouds in here, but let's blend a little bit of our sky here with the 2-inch brush. This is just the dirty blending brush we were using before. Gave the glue just a couple minutes to sit there and think about it. Now we'll just slowly move down our blue. Now we just go up into our dark, soften it a little bit. Now we've picked up some blue on the blending brush and we're going to bring that down into our pink. Bring it right on down. Right on down. We're getting super close to our yellow, but not going into it. That's why we used all this crimson as a little bit of a border. Gotta take a break, my hand's tired. Okay, jump right into it. I like to choke up on the brush. It definitely helps for this big blending process. If you're all the way back on the brush, you have to use a lot more effort. So if you choke up, it helps a little bit. But conditioning the canvas and getting it ready sometimes is just a lot of work. But it's worth it. We have to take this time to set it up so that way the rest of the painting all goes well. Right, I'm gonna add just a touch more of our dark color here. As we move through and blend some of this out, it's okay to come back and put in a little bit more dark. We just want to ease in to our gold down here as slowly as we can, because if you go in there with a real dirty blue brush too fast, you're gonna be so upset. And your sky's going to turn green, which isn't a bad thing, if that's what you were going for. Maybe just a touch more. Blending brush. Sometimes you have to get some different angles on the colors to make sure that you're blending it the way you want. As I'm dancing around the canvas, you guys are all wondering, what's she doing? All right, let's just continue to work in this dark around our light source. A little bit of darkening here. Okay, now we want to clean off our blending brush a little bit because we're going to work on this golden area here a touch. And we do have a lot of dark blues, so we just wipe them off on our towel. Now I've talked about it before a few times, but I'm going to mention it again. I make my own brush wash, and so I don't use paint thinner ever when I paint. Never. I don't even buy it. I don't have any. I don't use it. So we don't clean our brushes while we're painting. We just wipe them off. And it does require a little bit of modification to, how much paint you're applying and how you go about your painting process. But if you reduce the amount of paint by a little bit, you'll start to notice a really big difference on the overall look of your paintings because you're going to be able to blend it a lot more easily and get that really soft look. If you have a bunch of pigment up here, you just start pushing it around and it's going to turn into mud. But if you work carefully and go slow, you'll be rewarded. Now we're just softening this all out, bringing it together and getting rid of all of our brush strokes. Wipe that out a little more. You can tell when there's too much paint on your brush. It just starts to pull some lines when you're blending. So you can just wipe it out as you go. And you can mostly get rid of them. Some of these you can go back towards the end of your painting and soften out. But largely you should be able to get them all taken care of if you're not applying too much paint, which I think is probably one of the hardest things with oil painting is the paint consumption. So, practice. I've painted something like 400 paintings up until this point, so that's a lot of practice. And they're all big canvases like this, so that's a lot of practice. It's a lot of repetition, and I hope that you give it the time and practice because you could do this. Anybody can do this. And I didn't believe that at first either. But if you really believe that you can, you will. All right. I like that a lot. Nice and soft. Okay, let's pick up the sable brush again I'm just going to dance in a tiny bit more of my sunlight. Now that we've really worked it through, we can just pop in once more a tiny bit of light. Maybe Indian yellow and bright red. Just a touch of orange to that. Titanium white. Got a little hair on the canvas. Get off. It's just... Okay, I got it. That one totally did not want to come off. Normally you can just flick them right off, and that one was like, no, really want to be here longer. Okay, I like that. A nice little pop of that light color in there. Now I'm going to pick up, let's go for a clean 2-inch brush. Brand new clean 2-inch brush. This one I haven't even opened yet. Ooh, that's nice. We're gonna get some titanium white, a whole load of that, and alizarin crimson. Maybe we'll grab a touch of bright red. Ooh, I like that. Tap. This is a nice thick paint. Darken it just a touch and we can come back in with some highlights later. I'm just tapping into my thick titanium white, and here we go. We're going to tap out some clouds. Now we're going to start picking up some blue as we go up, so we need to wipe off the brush just a little. It won't pick up too much because we're using such a thick paint here. It really just wants to stick to what we have on the canvas. That's why we spent so much time prepping it, so that this next step works easily for us. I thought some long clouds were pretty fitting in this big desert sky. We'll get some more. Every time that you run out of your paint and reload, wipe off your brush just to make sure that we're getting rid of any of that blue pigment on there so that we can come back with our bright pink clouds, and they'll sit right on top. Nice and thick, super thick. We just tap. A little bit more. So thick, very thick paint. Ooh, I like that color a lot. Ooh, that's nice. Okay, let's see, maybe a little bit more pink. I'm getting a little bit darker now. Maybe a little bit more through here. And a little bit more. Let's get some gold. That might be fun. Just mix it right on the brush. Just pick them out. Maybe there's a few little things. Who knows? Something like that. Now, we gotta clean out this brush. Super easy. It's thick paint, so it just wipes off. We can get rid of all of that excess. Wipe off, and we're good to go. Now we just use this and soften. We can tap, starting in our lighter areas, moving to our darker areas. We're just going to soften them first. Careful here in the blue. Very careful. Maybe these ones will twist them up, give them a little swirlies. Give them a little tiny lift. This is another part. If you have too much paint on your canvas, blending out your skies and your clouds and your mountains, it just becomes really challenging. So paying attention to how much pigment you're using is going to really change your experience. Now, I've wiped out my brush and I'm just pulling these clouds, laying them down nice and flat. Maybe we'll give them a little tickle here. And we'll lay them down. Right, we've got a really nice foundation here. Let's build on it a little bit. With our fan brush, this time I'm for real. We're going to work out a little bit of our pink highlights. So we'll get a little bit of our pink, and then we need to pick up some liquid white, and we'll go right back into this pink. We are looking for a medium thickness and a little bit lighter than our original, but still to the pink side. And our light source is coming from below, so we're just going to pop on a few lit areas on the bottoms of these clouds. We're just reloading with the same color and tapping. I'm going to wipe out my brush since I picked up some blue, and then we'll reload with that same color. Maybe over here, just tap a little bit. Now with our fan brush, if you wipe it off, you can actually use that to blend. And then we can keep our clouds nice and long here. We just bring a little bit of that paint up into the cloud. We don't want to mess with this bottom where we put all of the light. We just lift it up. All right, a little bit more pink. I think we'll do, there's just a few little dark crimson spots that kind of popped through here that I want to work out a touch on. Oh, I like that. Then we can just get a few of these clouds moving there. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my thick pink mixture and add some orange to it. That's just kind of our red and Indian yellow. And we'll throw in a few, maybe a few more texture things down into this lower area. Up into the top, some red and crimson, a little darker now. Just add a touch of darkness to the top of these. Just a tiny bit. And we'll come back and blend that. Same brush. Okay, now we'll pick up our big blending brush one more time, and we'll just soften a little bit more of this out. Long strokes for the long horizon. Lift these. As we get higher, they're going to have a little bit more shape higher into the sky. Let's dance in just a tiny bit more. Titanium white, liquid white. I want some pink. Just a few little wispy clouds up here. Soften them out. With the blending brush, one more time. Got a little hair. I think I got it. Easy peasy, like it never happened. Okay, now we're just gonna make sure all of these brush strokes are out. We kind of want to make sure that we don't see any of the brush strokes, so we can just lightly go over the whole canvas and wipe off your brush. Very nice. Let's move into a little bit of a distant foothill that's going to be just barely visible. We'll use the sable brush, and I'm just picking up a little bit of the white mixture that had some pink on it, and then we'll go into our sky mix that we used. And we're looking for like a light gray lavender. Something like that. Let's see how it looks. Maybe a little darker. A little bit more blue. And a little bit more crimson. There we go. And let's just dance in. A little foothill. Tiny bit more color, just the slightest amount. The most important part is this top of the mountain here. Then we're going to soften out the rest. Maybe we'll add just a tiny bit of pop to that. We can use the fan brush that already has a little bit of paint on it. And we'll pick up just a little bit of our thinned down paints here, medium texture, on the fan brush. And we just whisper in a few highlights. It's really far away. You don't want a lot of noise on this. Now, if we pick up the sable brush we used to apply the paint first, and we can just soften this all back. Push it back. We don't want a lot of detail. All right. Now, we're going to start building some shrubs and stuff. Because that's a thing, shrubs and stuff. We're going to use the 1-inch brush, and we're going to just, let's mix up a real dark color. Since everything is going to just be basically backlit, we'll use the paint, not the hairs. New brushes. They shed. Let's just mix all these blues and grab some crimson. Make a big old pile. We're going to use it for a while. Mix it up real good. Not marbled this time. And just pick it up and flip it over. and make us a big pile. There we are. Now we'll load our 1-inch brush by dragging it through the paint. Lots of paint. We're going to take this brush, it's kind of rounded on the top, we turn that up. One of the most classic bushes. We bend those bristles and let them come off. All of those little bristles will bend and create some fun little bushes. We can come back in and add more detail to them later. We're going to create a little foothill kind of all across the front here. And we're looking through it. Maybe we're sitting on the ground just enjoying the sunset. Fill it all in with that dark. It's all of the dark, the same mix through this whole bottom. Just keep reloading it when you need to. This stroke doesn't matter down here so much, but this stroke does matter. So we'll reload it one more time. Pull your brush through the paint so you get it slightly rounded on the top, and you bend your bristles. There it is. Now, we're going to pick up a script liner and thin out some paint with the brush wash. And we're just going to use some of this dark for a little while. And we'll just wiggle out some branches. One of my favorite desert plants is the ocotillo. I really, really like that one. The hummingbirds love it. And it's just such an interesting plant. It has thorns and flowers and beautiful green little leaves. And it'll bloom and you'll see all of these little red, they're kind of, what do you call it? The hummingbirds really like it, so they're like cone shaped. And the flowers just, they're so, so pretty, and I love watching all the hummingbirds fly around. They get a little aggressive, you know, they're like, this is my ocotillo. It's kind of funny. I mean, probably not if you're the other hummingbird, because they can get kind of mean, but that's what these are. These are going to be our ocotillos. Put in a few of those because I love them. And they grow like a lot. There's a lot of them in the desert, especially in the Sonoran Desert, which is the one we're painting today. Let's do maybe we'll start with a few saguaros in the distance. Just going to keep reloading with the same paint. We're using this dark the whole time. And we're going to build our background. Putting in some saguaros in the distance. Another plant that I really like is the organ pipe cactus. And that one, if you can imagine what an organ looks like, that's kind of what this cactus bundle looks like. It's a bunch of different skinny and long little pipe looking things. And they just all grow in these big bundles, but it's all one plant. And it's so cool. I love the desert. It's so unique. And everything kind of just wants to hurt you. There's something fun about it though. A little bit of danger. Little organ pipe cactus here. Look at that organ. Maybe we'll do something up here. Ooh, I like it. I'm gonna make this one taller. Oh, just grew right overnight. That's not true. They grow so slow. I think I remember for every arm that they have, it's almost like 100 years. So the Saguaro National Forest in Tucson, there's some really, really old saguaros. They've been there for longer than all of us. I think that's really cool. There's some saguaros, I can't remember what it's called, but they get these funny little things on the top. It's not very common, but I remember there were two on my way home, and they get these, I don't know, maybe it's like a defect, but they grow all of their little arms right on the top. And it looks like a little chicken head or something, and like all of the little feathers plopping up, or like a dinosaur or something. That's always been really funny. But we're going to put one in today because they're real. They do exist. Maybe I'll have another arm too. Got to balance out with all that top heaviness. Ooh, I'm so excited to be painting the desert. I feel like it brings me closer to my roots. We're going to put some blooms on the top of these saguaros. Maybe it's summertime. The bats like to pollinate the saguaros, and I think that was a really cool thing to experience in the desert, is hearing bats. Maybe we'll do a few other trees, like the creosote bush or palo verde. All kinds of really fun and actually quite colorful trees in the desert. Pinks and purples, gold, but mostly brown. But we get some really good colors in the spring. And during the monsoon season, which is happening right now, everything will shoot out some really bright, beautiful colors. All right, just building in our background here. Maybe we'll make this tree a little bit taller here. Most common trees that you'll find next to a saguaro would be the palo verde, but a lot of the time once the saguaro gets really big, it pushes out the Palo Verde. So maybe we'll put a small little saguaro by this one here to make it realistic. They actually use them as their shelter for a long period of time while the saguaro is growing. And then over time, it just continues to take all of the nutrients from the tree. And it's a mutual thing. The tree's okay with it if it's lived a long life. And the saguaro's really happy because he gets protection. All right, let's use maybe the 1-inch brush that we were using earlier. And we'll just tap into some of the darks and we'll just tickle on a few little leaves here. Just want to lightly distribute some of this paint. Pick up a fan brush now and load that up with the dark. Ran out. I think I need to pile it all up. There we go. There's still some. It was just hiding. And in a few areas, let's get some more of that shadow and maybe one more. Script liner. All right, I'm going to just soften the base of these. And then we're going to work in just a tiny bit. Let's go into a little bit of our paint color here with the dirty brush, and we're just going to pick up a tiny bit of some light color. And we'll just add a tiny bit of kind of a little bit of mistiness, a little bit of mystery. We want this to be pretty dark because our sun is behind. So now let's throw in a few features right in the foreground. And I think I'm going to pick up a bigger brush for this. Let's do a small sable, bigger than the script liner though. Load it up with some dark, nice and dark. Ooh, gotta get brave. And we want this nice and dark. I ran out of my paints. Throw it. Blues and black and crimson. I'm running dangerously low on my alizarin crimson. It is time to reorder. That's my favorite color. Okay, let's mix them up we're just going to make a big pile. I guess I could have just piled them all up to begin with, but we're just going to mix up that same color that we were just using, but we ran out. Load her up. Nice and dark. Maybe. Same dark. This is all going to be kind of like the silhouette of everything, so we don't really want a ton of colors on these. It'll make the effect a lot cooler. And once it dries, oh man, I'm so excited for this one. It's going to dry so pretty. Love all these colors. Let's make this a bit more dark, wider at the bottom. They are pretty straight though, most of the time. Oh, we did it. Let's fatten this guy up. It's been a nice wet season and they've been drinking it up. Saguaros are completely hollow in the inside. Something super cool about them. They hold all of their water in there. And sometimes some birds. I think the cactus wren is the most popular bird that will take up a nest in a saguaro. And they're pretty cool. Ooh, nice and dark. The most important part. They're so massive. I think this one needs to be stronger. Ooh, look at him. That's nice. Massive. It's like that big tree in your forest painting. Just believe. But I do think this is such a cool effect against this bold sunset. I have so many pictures like this from when I was younger and would spend time out in the desert watching the sunsets. If you haven't ever been to Arizona to watch a sunset, do it. Don't wait, just do it. They're some of the most beautiful colors you'll ever see in a night sky. Sometimes you'll hear the coyotes. Sometimes it's like eerie quiet, but I like hearing the coyotes in the distance. It's pretty cool because we share all of our space with wildlife. And they're mostly okay with it. We try. I think this one needs an arm, maybe. What about maybe a long one? No, maybe a little. Yeep. This one's only 106 years old. This one's 200. Isn't that crazy to imagine? He's got 2 arms, but that's how it works. They grow so slow. All right, now we're going to take a good amount of dark, and we're just going to make sure we run up on the back side with some fresh dark. Same color, but we just want to make sure that we use our darkest color on the back. There we are. Now we can put a few little flowers, since we mentioned that they would be blooming. More dark. And then we'll just touch up, make those nice and round on the top, and cover up some of those brush spots. The sable brush works so well. If you're very careful with it, you can soften just about anything. All right, now we're going to pick up a new sable brush, brand new clean sable brush. And we're going to run up on our highlight side just a tiny bit of pink, the smallest amount. You just load up whatever you have on your palette. It does need to be thin, and we're going to use the liquid white for that. And we're just going to run a little highlight down the outside of our swirls. Reload each time. I really like the square or flat sable brush for this. Instead of the round one, it works a lot better. Oh my gosh, so typical of Kaylee. I'm almost at the end of my painting and I start throwing my tools. We'll have a little tracker on the bottom, that's one. One of these days I'll make a big compilation of all of my brush drops, but I'll remember them in the video, and then we go back and look at them and I'm like, I don't remember where it is. But I think if I just look at the last third of all of my paintings, I'm probably going to find them. And I think it's really funny. But for those of you at home who are painting, if you drop your tools, try not to catch it. Just jump out of the way and let it fall onto the ground wherever it's going to go. Because if you try and catch it, you're going to throw it into your canvas. And it's just the way it is. You'll go, oh my gosh, I could totally catch this. And then the next thing you know, you have a big brush mark right in the middle of your scene. And then maybe you get a little sad. You can fix it. You can always fix it. But let's avoid some of those struggles by just setting yourself up for success. Let it fall. I think I'm going to get some more titanium white. Just used most of it. Titanium. We're using titanium white and our pinks and liquid white. It has to be thin, or else it's not going to run down the side of this cactus. saguaro. There is a G in it, it's silent. And the ocotillo actually has 2 L's in it, also silent. Ooh, the desert. I love the desert. Just working these tiny blips of light onto the side of our saguaros. Just using pinks, liquid white, titanium white, and some of our pink right down the edge. It's the smallest little touch, but it matters. A little bit more. We're picking up a lot of blue, just reload until it gets a little bit more pink. We just have to overpower it a little. There it is. Oof. I like this. This is pretty. I'm having so much fun. It's been a little while since I've painted a desert scene. Maybe, I don't know, maybe like 8 months, because I think it was in the springtime, but last year, because I was in my other studio. And that was a painting that I just sold. Super bummed, but I'm glad it went to a good place. That's why we're painting a new desert. You just want to kind of like blot out all of this down below and really give that shadow, silhouette effect back here. So we just are going to push it all, have just less detail. Script liner. I'm just feeling a few more little swirls back here in our distance. You can just use the script liner, and if you thin it down by going into the brush wash, you can just drag right on top of all of this, and it's just going to soften it. We don't even have to apply pigment. We're just blending this pigment out. A little bit more dark. With the script liner, I'm just going to build maybe a couple more little trees out here. I'm really liking this little fan brush tree, probably our Palo Verde. It looks really cool. I think we need a couple more. So we'll get just the tiniest bit of this same dark color. We're going to keep working with it. Maybe we've got our ocotillo over here. Perhaps we can just tap in some of the blooms on the tops of these. And that's about what they look like. They're just these little tiny little bulbs on the top almost. They're so cool. And they'd normally be red, but in this silhouetted sun, we're just going to see their outline. A little bit more paint. And we'll do this one here. Sometimes it's these little details that you think might not matter, but they can really make or break the whole scene. Because we don't have a lot of color detail in this foreground, we have to work in some other kinds of detail, some mystery. These ones are going to be just like they're in the background over here. Maybe we have another one hiding behind this Palo Verde. Very cool. Ooh, sometimes, there's definitely some paintings and you're like, I like it, it's cool, it turned out. But this one, really happy. I'm gonna mix up just like a tiny little bit of a blue-green, and I'm going to just dance on just the slightest little hint of green on these up here. As the sun is fading, it's just, you can just catch a tiny glimpse of the color. Oh, that's nice. And maybe we can do that on just a couple of these ocotillos. We'll build up the smallest bit of red. Red and blue, but mostly red. We have some liquid white. It's a very pale color here. And just on a couple. Right where maybe just a tiny bit of light is happening. We might see. Now with our fan brush, just wipe it out. We're going to put just a couple little leaves. You can just tap on a few of these down below, because there are actually really small leaves on these ocotillos. I'll just give them a little bit. Maybe a few details on these blooms on top. They are usually pretty light colored. I feel like I remember them being white with a yellow inside. We probably won't see very much of that because it's nighttime, but we can dance on a few little blips as the sun is catching them. And again, these are just those little details that when somebody comes up and looks at this painting up close, they'll go, wow, look at that. And you just spent maybe 10 or 15 minutes on some important details, and that's it. Not 5 days or something crazy like that. Maybe we'll bring down a few Just a couple little details on the spines. As they run long and down the swallow. Oh wow, this is so cool. Yep, I think I'm gonna sign it. I'm so happy with this. This is gonna be my new favorite desert painting, and I'm gonna have to put it on my wall and stare at it for a while. Maybe months. It could be a while. I think it's gonna sit on my wall. I really like these colors. They're making me so happy. All right, signature. I always use the bright red. It's the brightest color on our palette, and it's non-translucent, so it's always going to sit on top of our other colors. No matter what you paint, even if you have red on your canvas, you'll basically be able to see this color. You can add some liquid white into it every now and then if you need to. Reload. All right, I'm all done with my painting today. You were here for Tutorial Tuesday number 66. I'm so excited to have you with me in the studio for this wet on wet oil painting desert challenge. This beautiful sunset scene, silhouetted desert landscape. Oh, it just really brings some warm, comforting feels. So I really hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Be sure to tune in next week and every week after for Tutorial Tuesday, where we do the live premiere and chat. I love hanging out and chatting with you all, and I can answer any of your questions that comes to the oil painting or anything else. So we'll catch you every Tuesday, 5 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Be sure to send me your emails, Kaylee@KayleeRakowski.com. I would love to see if you decided to work on this painting at home. Send me your emails. We'll see you next week. Smile and be happy, friends.